Welcome back to the show, Fellowship of the Rink. Our guest today is one of the newest members of the Minnesota Wild, Justin Brazeau. Hello, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Just love your story, love your journey. I think, one of my favorite things about being a writer and covering teams and players is kind of all their unique paths to get where they are. And speaking of uniqueness off the ice, our podcast name is Fellowship of the Rink. So Lord of the Rings fan. I don't know if you are Lord of the Rings fan or not, but if not,
never watched it. No.
If not, like, what's your kind of nerd itch? What's your kind of off the ice thing? Like your movie series, book series, collect something. What's your kind of go-to thing?
Yeah. Movie series, I was definitely a big Marvel guy. Up until kind of Endgame and stuff like that, I was kind of the early Marvel stuff. I haven't watched a lot of the stuff lately, but definitely a big Marvel guy. And then I like the Transformers series a lot as well.
That was classic. As a kid, you probably had Transformers too, right? Or all those kind of stuff,
Yeah, I was definitely big into the movies and stuff. I never really had a ton of like the action figures and stuff like that. But I was definitely a big movie guy. My dad's like a big Marvel guy. Like, he watched a lot of the Marvel stuff. Like, that's the kind of movies he likes. So we'd always kind of go to those and go watch them in theaters and stuff like that.
Who are your hockey idols? Who are the guys who are the posters on your wall, I guess?
I had Ovechkin. So last night playing like those guys is pretty cool. Him, as I kind of got a little older, Corey Perry kind of started to become somebody I watched a lot. He's from where I'm from, so like I skated with him once when I was like a really young kid. He came and did a hockey school for us, so I kind of really liked him. But yeah, I would say Ovechkin was definitely probably my biggest idol.
So getting the chance to go up against him, or do you say anything to him at all, or you get a chance at any point to
No, I didn't say too much, but it's definitely a pretty cool feeling. Like, I remember, obviously I played him 3 times this year. We played him twice last year. So, but that first game last year against him was kind of like that was like the only guy really when I was playing, I was like kind of in awe, like, oh, this is pretty cool.
You can tell your kids someday you block one of his shots or whatever
exactly.
like that. On your path to get here, Newfoundland was another one of your stops. Like, what was it like to play there? What was the kind of the feel?
It was awesome. That was maybe one of my favorite years of hockey I've ever played. The people out there are so nice. They love their hockey. But yeah, just like it's a different place to live. Like, I mean, the weather was crazy every 5 minutes. I was actually there. I don't know if it still is or but at the time, I think it was one of the biggest snowstorms that have ever happened out there. It was like 100+ mile an hour winds. I think we got like 2 feet of snow in 24 hours. It was crazy. Like, I was snowed into my apartment for 4 days in a row. So it was a cool place. It was a unique place. Obviously the travel was a lot, always flying in and out and busting around everywhere. But, we had a really good group and, I had a lot of fun out there.
How do you describe a Newfie or a person from Newfoundland?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, they're a unique, like, I think the kind of like the East Coast, like Boston, like that, they have the accent. It's obviously a little different, but like if you talk to like a Newfie just on their own, they have a little accent. There's not too much, like, you can't really tell too much, but it's when they get around each other, like when the locals get around each other and they start talking like the Newfie slang, and they go from being able to have a conversation with you and then you don't even understand what they're saying. Like, half the time the slang is a little bit crazy out there.
And have you ever heard of Screeched In?
Yeah, I got Screeched In. Yeah, that was one of our things we did.
Yeah, I know people who listen to this probably don't know it, but I covered Tampa Bay Lightning before this, and John Cooper was a coach, and he took his team to Newfoundland and for a game, and the whole team got Screeched In at a bar.
Yeah.
And how would you describe your experience of what that actually is and kind of why it's so unique?
Yeah, we did the same thing. So when we first got out to Newfoundland, it was like the not rookie thing, but like anybody who had never played in Newfoundland or got Screeched In, we went to a bar and they set it up for us. Basically, it's a shot of Screech. You have to eat a bit of Newfoundland steak, which is like bologna, and then you got to kiss a fish. So you kind of do it like you do the bologna first, then you kiss the fish, then you do the shot, and they give you like a little certificate saying you're an honorary Newfoundlander.
What fish do you have to kiss? Which one was it? Was it like a codfish?
I don't know what it was, actually. I'm actually not sure. I don't know what kind of fish it was, but it was definitely something I've never done before.
There better be a photo there somewhere, right? Everybody had to have photos
taken. I think there might be a video of everybody doing it.
Scoring goals is the hardest thing to do in this league and in any league, and you scored 60 in junior. Just like, how would you describe what that season was like? Like, was it just something you got on one of these rare heaters, or was it just kind of what every day was like? Everything felt like it was going in for you.
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. I mean, I kind of was building up to it. I think the year before I had 40, and it was something that, my goal was going into the year 50. So I kind of had that, mindset of like, I know I can score in this league and I can play. But yeah, it was obviously just one of those years where kind of a lot of things went well. Obviously I was lucky to play with, good line mates, and I played a lot of minutes because we never really had necessarily the best team in the world. So I played a lot of minutes. Kind of was just like the right blend of everything. Coaches that, believed in me and let me kind of just play my game and do my thing. So yeah, that was a lot of fun that year, that season. And, just my whole 4 years up in North Bay, it was awesome.
And from your vantage point back then, like, were you surprised you weren't drafted, or like, where was the kind of the feel of that at time?
Yeah, I mean, the drafted thing, I don't think I was necessarily too surprised with. Obviously, I played my draft year was my first year in the OHL, and I think I had 12 points or whatever it was. So I ended up going to Detroit's camp, didn't get drafted, didn't really expect to get drafted. Like, I had never really heard of anything until kind of towards the end of the year, and I got on like one draft, like a position or something. The next year, I thought there was a slight chance. I think I had 20 goals my 18-year-old year, 40 points or something. So I thought there may have been a chance, and then I never got drafted. I never went to like a whatever they call it, development
prospect camp, development camp. Yeah.
I ended up going to like the prospect tournament at the end of the year to like fill a roster. But so that was like the only year I kind of thought I was maybe going to get drafted. But no, I never really, like I said, I never really had expectations of the draft just because I knew I was kind of a little later getting going. And my third year in the OHL, I obviously had a good year. I went to San Jose's camp. I thought there was potentially a chance of something there. But then they told me to go back and just have a good year. And that year was kind of I thought I had earned, potentially an NHL contract at that point from what I had done. But obviously it didn't work out. And, I wouldn't change kind of how I got here at all, though.
And do you have is it especially gratifying considering the way you got here? Like, I think you talk to guys who played in the coast and stuff like that and kind of know what it's like to bounce around. Like, does it give you kind of that satisfaction of like, hey, this is how I got here?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's, I don't think I would change anything about kind of how I got here. Obviously every road is different. But yeah, definitely I think everything kind of leads towards where you get to. Like, I mean, I feel like I can handle not criticism, but the ebbs and flows of a season a little better now because I'm so used to, being down there, being up, being everywhere. But yeah, no, I definitely feel a kind of a sense of, accomplishment being able to stick with it for as long as I did. Obviously I had I played, I think 80 games down in the East Coast League. So I was, I stuck with it. I was sent down 2 different times. And then after, the COVID year in Toronto, I wasn't sure. I was honestly at that. So after my second year in Toronto, I had committed to the University of Toronto. And I was about a week away from I started to pick my courses and kind of figure out, where I was going to live down there and go to school. And then Providence called me kind of a week before I was kind of ready to go down and offered me a deal. And I knew I could play here. I knew I never lost that belief that I could make the NHL. But obviously it's tough when you kind of bouncing around down there and you're like, I don't know if I'll ever get my chance. So I knew I could play, and then Providence gave me the call and gave me a contract. And I said, what's one more year going to do? I'd already lost my OHL package at that point, and I would have had a red shirt for a year. So I decided to go with it. And obviously I'm pretty happy I did.
What were you going to study, or what was going to be your backup plan, or what would you think you would have done if you didn't?
Yeah, I was kind of going back and forth between like the business program there or kinesiology. I wasn't really sure. It was kind of like that weird year where we didn't finish up till a little bit later because we didn't start till like February or whatever it was. And then I kind of waited about a month or two to see if I'd get anything. And I'd gotten 2 other offers in the American League, but they were basically just ECHL offers. And I told my agent, I don't want to sign just a straight ECHL deal. So I was kind of wait. I wasn't 100% sure. I just knew I was going to kind of get down to Toronto and figure it out from there. Basically, I was talking to the coach, like, he's like, just get down here and we'll figure it out. But yeah, it was probably between those two.
And then when you got to Providence, obviously you took off from there. Like, was there a certain kind of turning point for you, or like a confidence building moment to where like you kind of knew that there's going to be no more kind of going down in that respect?
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky. The coaches in Providence were awesome for me. Ryan Mujno is somebody that, I owe a lot to in my career. Him and his assistants down there, to be able to kind of stick with me and believe in me and trust in me was awesome. Obviously, when I first got to Prov, I probably wasn't in the best shape ready to play hockey, because I honestly thought like that summer it was kind of like I'm not going to play hockey for the next year and a half because I couldn't play my first year at school. So I wasn't probably training as hard as a professional hockey player should be. So that's basically why I got sent down. And when I got called up, they basically just said, like, play your game. We believe in you. And we know you guys, you be a good player here. So I owe a lot to them. I think that was the biggest thing for me. Just like, I remember even in Toronto, like my second year, I kind of like, I knew I could play, but I knew that maybe the situation I was in, they didn't quite see me sticking. So I think just that confidence from a coaching staff of like, I can go out and play my game. And if I make little mistakes, it's not going to be like I get back to the bench and I'm sent back down again. You know what I mean? Just that confidence of knowing that I'm going to get my next shift as long as I keep trying to work hard and do the best that I can. So I owe a lot to those guys down there.
What's the most vivid memory from the day of your NHL debut? Like, obviously, the end result, we all know what happened. He's scoring a goal, but like, what was the overall emotions of the day, and kind of, was it a surprise? Did you kind of see it coming, and like, kind of how did that play out?
Yeah, no, that was one of the craziest weekends of my life. I mean, I think so. My debut was on a Monday in Boston. We had played the Friday night in Providence, and there was rumblings that like they were trying to shake some stuff up, because I think they were struggling. Like, they obviously had a good team, but their fourth line was kind of getting struggling a little bit. And I remember the Friday night, I think the whole front office from the Bruins was at the game. So I ended up playing pretty well. And then Saturday night, because we were supposed to play on Sunday in Prov at like 3:00. And normally every night before a game, like the lineup will get sent out. And there'll be a schedule so guys know when to come in. Like, basically they just put in like, everybody show up to the rink ready to play. Like, we're not sure what the lineup's going to be. So people were kind of like, something's off. Like, something's a little weird. And I remember I showed up to the rink and I was kind of we're getting ready for the game in the shower. And like, our coach, like Mujno, came in and was just kind of like, hey, come see me in my office for 5 minutes. And I was like, oh, that's like weird. Cause I've got an American League contract. Like, if anybody's going to get called up, I was like, it's not going to be me, cause I'd have to sign a deal. But he pulled me in and he basically just said, like, Sweens is coming down to, they're going to offer you a contract. And I think the plan is to play tomorrow. So, it was kind of one of those things where I signed my contract in the first and second period, intermission in Providence. And then kind of halfway through the second period, I packed up my bag. I went in, popped my head in between the second intermission, and said, good luck to them for the third period. And I headed up to Boston, went to a hotel and played the next morning at 1. So it's kind of crazy. And, the timing worked out really well. My sister had never been to Prov in my 3 years that I was there. So she was on her reading week back home. So she flew in. I picked her up on the Saturday in Boston. And so she ended up being there already. So she was able to kind of watch my first game. My parents flew in. So it was a crazy weekend, but it was pretty special. And
like, they have the goal too, right? Something you'll remember for the rest of your life.
Definitely a pretty cool moment.
And you feel like you kind of found your identity then at that point, like when you started to get a chance to play in Boston, you needed some help on the fourth line, but kind of, did you kind of feel like I know you've been a scorer for a lot of your previous junior career, but you kind of identify what kind of way would be successful for you at this level?
Yeah. I mean, when I signed to, like, I remember Sween, like, that was the biggest thing. He's like, we're going to bring you up and call you up, and we don't want you to change a single thing about your game. Like, you might not score as much or create quite as much as you do in the American League, but we don't want you to change the way you play. Like, I feel like the way I play now is kind of the way I've always played. Obviously, in the American League, you get a little bit more time and space sometimes, or opportunity on like power plays and just playing more minutes to put up points. But I was just kind of told, like, just play the way you play. And I think, I can bring that to a line where I don't necessarily play as super flashy or anything, but I feel like I do what I'm supposed to do well, and getting in on forechecks and trying to create pucks stalled up and get into the net and stuff like that.
This interview is brought to you by our friends at Waggle Golf. Waggle Golf believes what you wear on the course should reflect your individuality, who you are, where you're from, your hobbies, interests, and passions. All the stuff that makes you, well, you. That's why every design is inspired by the desire to create a piece of apparel that strikes a chord when you see it, that makes you say, wow, that was made for me. Because in a lot of ways, it was. Ready to get your waggle on? Go to getyourwaggleon.com, throw in promo code SP10 at checkout to take 10% off your entire order.
The playoff time is everybody's favorite time of year, and you got kind of thrown into it after coming back from an injury. Like, just what was the moment like? I mean, I guess first both series, I guess, but like especially Game 7. Like, everybody talked about playing this dream to play in Game 7 of a playoff series. Like, what were your emotions? Were you like nervous? Were you freaking out, or kind of how did that kind of come to play?
Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, especially for me growing up as a Canadian, like the Leafs were my favorite team, and I remember being like, oh, we always lose to the Bruins, and now I'm on the Bruins. And I had a bunch of buddies text me like the night before, like, we love you, but you can't do it to us again. Like, the Bruins can't do it to us again. But no, it was pretty cool. And honestly, I was pretty happy with the way I kind of handled it. Obviously, there was some nerves and stuff going into it. It was only my third playoff game at that point. Like, I came back for Game 5, I think it was, in the series, and then we obviously lost 2. But no, I was pretty happy with the kind of the way I handled it. Obviously, like I said, my first shift getting out was a little bit of nerves, but I thought I settled in pretty quick. I didn't have too many. There was obviously like good nerves, good emotions and stuff like that, but I don't think I ever let the moment kind of take over, and I don't think I was ever like worried about making any mistake or anything like that.
To get an assist on a tying goal in Game 7, it's got to be on the bucket list too,
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Honestly, I thought I scored it at first. I shot it and it landed on top of the net somehow and rolled off the back. But yeah, no, it's pretty cool to be able to say I had an assist in the game tying goal.
You hear a million stories about Brad Marchand, and people say like they hate to play against him but love to have him on their team. Like, what's something about Marchie that people don't know or that people should be surprised about?
Yeah, he's one of the best. Like, not only players I've ever played with, obviously he's got to be up there with the best, one of the best players, but off the ice too. Like, he was so good. When I got called up welcoming people, like he takes the time to get to know everybody and make sure everybody feels like they're a part of the group. He was really, really good to me. Since even like, I remember, cause I would always go there in the summers and train when I was on an American League contract. Like, I would just go in and cause they had let me work out with the Bruins stuff and all that. And even then, like, he didn't matter who you were, he'd go up and introduce himself, make sure everybody felt welcome to the group. So yeah, he's a really special person. He's a great leader off the ice, and he's obviously a pretty special player.
And both of you guys were dealt at the deadline. That was on everybody's bingo card, I'm sure, to have him traded too. But
yeah, crazy.
That day for you, I know it was like a whirlwind of travel. But did you kind of see a trade coming somewhere in terms of how the contract talks were going, and kind of like, for your first time kind of going through that experience, like, how do you feel, you handled it?
Yeah, no, I kind of had an idea. Like, I didn't know if it was for sure going to happen or not. I was basically told it's kind of like 50-50, like, we're looking around, which I expected just with the way the season was kind of going for us. And obviously, like you said, the contract coming up and stuff like that. I kind of had an idea of it, but yeah, no, definitely a crazy thing. Like, it's something that I've never had to worry about, because when you're on an American League contract, like, trade deadline doesn't really mean anything to you, like, unless you're one of those guys who are kind of up and down, might get waived, so you get traded that way. But like, so I had never thought about this time of year that way. But yeah, no, obviously it took probably a couple of days when I first got traded to kind of get settled in, but it kind of has a very similar feel to me of last year, like getting called up at the same sort of time. Like, I went up to the Bruins. I didn't really know any, like, I knew a couple of the guys that were call-ups and stuff like that, but I didn't really know any of the guys, and kind of trying to get fit in and stuff like that to the new team. So it had a similar feel to that.
Do you have a favorite like flower moment so far now that you've kind of been around him a little bit? And I'm sure you probably didn't know you think you play with them in your entire career.
Yeah,
so.
no, I never thought I'd ever play with him. It's obviously pretty cool. I'm trying to think of a moment. I think just like when you watch him in practice, like how much he loves to compete and like have fun. Like I didn't even stuff like in warm up, like when it sounds stupid, but like the starting goalie normally never does like the last puck thing in warm up, but like he just wants to be in there and make saves and stuff like that. So just how much he loves the game is pretty cool.
What's the vibe around this Wild team? Like, I would seem like every game is a playoff game now with how tight the standings are. Like, have you got a pretty good feel for like the culture, like just the feel of the room, and how, you think that could help the group down the stretch?
Yeah, it's been awesome. I think there's a lot of confidence in this group that, we're a good team. Like if anything goes wrong in a game to start or we get down 1 or 2, like I don't think there's any disbelief in the group just to keep kind of playing the same way that we know how to play, and we'll get the results. It's obviously a really special group that way. Great leaders, guys like Moose and stuff like that. Spurgey, they've been awesome. But yeah, no, I really like just the calmness of it. It reminds me a lot of last year when we were in the playoffs. Like we were up 3-1 against the Leafs, lost 2 in a row, and going into Game 7, like we never had it was like nothing went wrong. It was just we're gonna win this game. And it kind of like this group reminds me of that. Like it does not matter what happens, kind of how we start, good, bad, whatever. There's a good confidence to this group, and I'm excited to kind of keep going here. And obviously, I think it's a good thing at this time of year to make sure your games are meaningful, so that when you do eventually get in, you're kind of ready to go from game 1. You're not in that lull where you're not really playing for anything for a couple games.
So your first impression of Kirill Kaprizov? What's your first impression getting a chance to be on ice with him with some of these workout skates, which looks like he hasn't missed 3 months?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard it, basically a lot of guys say it looks like he's playing a video game out there, and it kind of seems like that. Like he's just out there. He just loves to be on the ice and play with the puck, and he's obviously a really special player, so it's fun to watch.
What's your golf game like?
It's not bad. I don't play as much as I would like, even though people probably say I play a lot. But no, I'm like a 1 handicap, so.
Huh.
Yeah,
not too shabby.
Yeah.
If I break 100, I'm happy. So like this is a little different thing with it.
Final question brought to you as always by our good friends at Waggle Golf. First, make sure you head over to getyourwaggleon.com. Throw in promo code SP10 to take 10% off your entire order.
If you had to pick 3 people, dead or alive, athlete, musician, family, anybody, fill out your dream golf foursome, who would be in your dream golf foursome, and extra credit if you can say what golf course you would play at?
I'd definitely pick Augusta National. That's easy, the easiest answer there. I'm trying to think dream golf foursome. I think I'd have to say Tiger Woods just to, I mean, if you're a golf fan, how could you not say somebody like him? He would definitely be one of them. I'm trying to think. Do you know who Wesley Bryan is? I watch a lot of like YouTube golf stuff, and he's kind of the guy, like he qualifies for a lot of PGA tournaments. I would say him, just watching him hit, he's unbelievable with his wedges. I'd probably say him, Tiger, and then I'd probably throw my dad in there. I'd like playing with golf with my dad. So
would you be him and your dad, you and your daddy in the cart, or you split the golf and you want Tiger Woods in my cart and you could dag it?
Yeah, I might take Tiger for that one.
You've had plenty of rounds with your dad, I'm sure. So
yeah, I play a tournament with him every year. So, or I just started. We did it last year. We're gonna do it again this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining. Hope you had fun and good chance for Wild fans to get to know you a little bit down the stretch run. But thanks, Justin, and we'll catch you tomorrow.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me.